Hey, welcome to our YouTube channel, and if you haven't subscribed, please do.
As a teenage single mom of 2 kids and now a mom, get this, of 7, including 2 with special needs, Rachel DeBruin has not walked an easy road, but she still has some hope to share. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Cheryl.
Tell me about those bumpy teenage years, because I had bumpy teenage years, so I kind of understand this. You were into the party lifestyle. You think maybe even borderline alcoholic. Tell me about those years.
Well, it really started when I was 12 years old. I actually went to a sleepover, and unexpectedly there was alcohol and boys there, and kind of my first introduction to that kind of lifestyle. And I liked aspects of it, being a teenager, but it just became out of control over the years, is what happened.
And, you know, as that was going on, you had a boyfriend and you eventually found yourself pregnant, but he wasn't so excited about that idea.
No. So at this point, I was in my first year of university and away from home. And at that point, I was dating somebody and still partying. And through carelessness, I found myself pregnant, very unexpectedly. In fact, when I went to the clinic and they did a test, because I thought I had the flu, it was exam season. And I was worried, because I wasn't feeling well, I felt sick. And they said, well, let's just do a pregnancy test in case. And they said, you are pregnant. And I argued with them. I said, there's no way I'm pregnant. So that's how much of a shock it was to me that I was pregnant at 19.
That is tough. Your boyfriend wanted you to give it up. You decided to keep it. How did you decide to keep it?
Well, long story short, the church I had been going to with a neighbor when I was younger, they reached out to me. They found out I was pregnant. In fact, one woman actually drove all the way to the university where I was and took me out and told me a bit about her life story and just really encouraged me to think about the long-term ramifications of this and to count this child, even though it was unexpected, as a blessing.
And I think, there's a great point to that, because she offered to support you, the church offered to support you. And I think there's a difference between saying to somebody, hey, keep your child, but good luck, or saying, hey, keep your child, hey, we're going to help you walk that out, which is so cool.
Yes, it was very practical. The church even gave me some funds for pregnancy clothes. It wasn't just the church, there was other people in my life, but many people helped out with groceries, after the baby was born, babysitting, just a lot of support.
I love hearing that. And you had a faith in God since you were 12 years old.
Yes.
Were you crying out to him in this time? Were you talking to God?
I was. I had a faith in God since I was 12, but I wasn't fully committed to him. So I'd prayed, what people typically call the sinner's prayer, but I was still kind of following after my own will and doing a lot of my own things. So I was crying out to God, but...
Because even with that, like, come in an emergency, even if we're not totally on good grounds, and then come in an emergency, like, hey, hi, remember me? I need your help.
Yeah, I was crying out to God when I was pregnant, especially during the pregnancy. I was very scared of the pregnancy itself, of labor, of having a child. It was a scary time.
So you go through all that, you get settled, that boyfriend drifts away, new guy enters your life, and you find yourself pregnant again. Tell me about that day.
I felt so ashamed. I mean, I thought, how on earth could I do 2 mistakes within, not that my children are mistakes, but just that.
The timing.
7 months later. And I really was in a different place. So I was starting to go to church more regularly, even though I wasn't fully surrendered. But I knew that this time, not keeping the baby wasn't an option for me, and that, we were going to get through this, and step by step.
You were going to university, you'd had a scholarship, and this was affecting kind of your future, right? It's hard to be pregnant and raise little babies and go to school. You're a single mom now. The other man didn't stick around either, right?
Yes.
How scary was your future at that point?
Very much. I did end up finishing my degree not long after, so by God's grace. And actually, a number of people in the church again stepped in to help out and support me, friends and family. I found a new place to live and kind of had a fresh start, but it was a hard road.
Okay, well, we're going to continue your story. I know you took a little time off and focused on yourself. We're going to continue Rachel's story, and we're going to talk about an interesting turn as a wonderful young man enters the picture. That's in just a moment. We are back with Rachel DeBruin talking about how this young single mom began to put her life back together as she raised 2 kids alone. So 2 kids. You were kind of at this point, I'm going to take time off from men completely.
Yes.
And you wanted to work on yourself. So what does that mean, work on yourself? What were you doing?
So I took about a year purposefully, and I said no dating during this time, no love interests. I'm going to do, some inner healing stuff, meeting with some people for accountability, reading the word, praying, and just developing friendships and finding out who I was.
Such a good time. And so when that year ended, then what happened?
Well, I thought at the very end of the year that my husband would just show up, but that didn't happen exactly. It was 8 months after the year when I was actually working on a project in my neighborhood that I met my husband to be. Well, got to know him more.
You were volunteering together.
Yes, yes.
So what was different from him than these other guys?
He wasn't actually interested in me at first as a potential love interest.
A jerk.
No, he was just very friendly, honest, wasn't all about how he looks or trying to come across a certain way. He was very humble and down to earth. And that really, actually made him more attractive to me than some of the other guys who had tried very hard.
So you marry this guy. You have 2 kids already. You're a single mom. So now you're not doing it alone anymore, which is
That's
amazing.
right, yeah.
And then you have 5 more children. 5.
Yes.
You have 7 children.
Yes. Well, we're both Dutch. But we did say when we were dating, we both loved children and wanted a big family. We didn't know it'd be quite so large when we started out, but God blessed us with 5 more beautiful children.
Wow. Okay. So you've got 7 children. Some difficult days now. You had a diagnosis. 2 with special needs. Tell me about that.
Yes. Over the years, from parenting since day one, I found, my parenting experience was a little different than other people's. And I often wondered why that was. But I'm a little, slow to the get-go. It took me a few years before we decided to pursue testing. And then we did professional testing and got the first child who was diagnosed with ADHD. And then with one of my younger ones, we've had ADHD and autism dual diagnosis, still investigating. So,
wow. So how does that change your parenting then? You said that there's a little bit of a relief there.
it was, because for many years I just thought, oh my goodness, I'm the worst parent in the world. Having trouble getting these children to listen to me. I'm repeating myself endlessly and just feeling like a failure for many years. So it was hard to hear it and process the diagnosis, but then it all started to come together and make sense. And I really felt the Lord was in it in directing us to get the help we needed. Yeah.
And how is your relationship with God now? There was the time where you were a single mom and you were kind of hard on yourself about how that happened. And then now, raising 2 special needs. Tell me about the different ways he's been in your life through this time.
Honestly, I felt there's been a lot of seasons that he's carried me. He's literally carried me through. I don't know where I would be without my faith in Jesus Christ. There have been days, even just parenting, when it's like, this is so hard. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't know there would be so many difficulties along the way. And I want to say, also God has brought incredible people and community into our lives, both mine and my husband's, to help us as well. And we're very thankful that the Lord has done that as well.
So in practical terms, just for someone watching, maybe who hasn't experienced God carrying them, and they're kind of like, what does that mean? Like in practical terms, is that a feeling? Is that him speaking? Like, what is it?
I would say there's the feeling aspect, there's the guiding aspect. Like I would pray, God, give us answers, open a door, direct us. And he would, like the answers would come, within a day or a week or a month, something that we were praying about or searching for. Other times just, I believe people are the hands and feet of Jesus. So we would pray for a need to be met. And all of a sudden someone who didn't know our need would reach out to us. And we just counted that as God's timing. And then other times I've felt, his peace in my heart, in very trying times. Like I couldn't explain it any other way. Like this is so overwhelming, but God's peace is there.
And what about, like you were really hard on yourself when you got pregnant a second time. I noticed that.
Yes.
Who is God in those moments when we feel like a failure or we've let ourselves down, much less we're thinking that maybe we let him down? How do we relate to God then?
I think, there's certain passages in the Bible that have really comforted me, just knowing that his mercy is new every morning.
I love that one.
Knowing there's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. And after you ask forgiveness, he forgives us. It's not contingent on us being perfect or pulling ourselves by the bootstraps, but he can carry us through many hard times.
So good. Thank you so much for coming today to share your story. And hey, if you're watching, you might want to keep praying for Rachel with the 7 children.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Yeah, thanks. It's been great to meet you.
Great to meet you too.
I think sometimes we think that God is angry with us, that he's hard on us. And sometimes, as Christians, we don't represent him very well. Sometimes we're judgmental and we're mean, and please forgive us for that. Don't judge God by how people are. We're poor representations many times of who he is, but he is kind. He is forgiving. He looks at you with love, not with judgment, not with repulsion, maybe like we think in our minds, right? Those are lies that we're actually believing. He is passionate about you. If you need someone with skin on today just to tell you that, you need to hear them say, you are loved by God, and maybe even talk to God for you if you don't know where to start. We would love to start that conversation. That we have a phone number that you can call with the most wonderful people on the other end, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 1-866-273-4444. We would love to have a conversation with God on your behalf today and tell you that you are loved. We'll be right back.